I hope you're having a fantastic day. In this video, I'm going to be ranking all of the characters' abilities or powers, whatever you want to call them, based on how satisfying or fun I find them to use. As always, these tier lists are purely subjective, just my own personal opinion, so what I find fun or satisfying, you may not, or vice versa. So, let me know down in the comments, where do you agree with me, where do you disagree, and why? All right, first up we have Trapper, and generally I put Trapper in B tier out of the gate, but this time I'm going to break that mold, and we're going to go up into A tier with Trapper. Because, although I don't find his ability too potent, obviously it takes some strategy and setup time to, know where to place the traps and whatnot, but when you hear that snap, it is such a satisfying feeling. So we're gonna put Trapper in A. I think his special ability is very satisfying. All right, next up we have Wraith, and obviously Wraith can go invisible, which, fun fact, he's one of the few characters who enters the spirit world when he cloaks. He's not actually still there in the trial in the same realm that the survivors are. So I actually didn't know that for a longest time, and then somebody pointed out in a video, because I got the trivia wrong. But I like using his ability. It's obviously fun to zip around the map and get places real fast. Wraith is one of the few characters that I don't use Lethal Pursuer on because you can just move so fast cloaked that you can get information as quickly as you want to get it. So I find it fun to use. I wouldn't say it's as satisfying as like getting someone stuck in a bear trap with Trapper. So I'm gonna put him B. I don't think it's unsatisfying to use. It's just, B. I wouldn't consider B neutral, but more on the slightly positive end. It's more positive than not, but I wouldn't say it's overly fun to use and satisfying. So there you go. It is satisfying when you can actually catch a survivor off guard, but I feel comfortable with him to B. Now I am terrible with Hillbilly, and when I can pull off a chainsaw sprint, that is mega satisfying. And I've said in the past, I don't find the chainsaw killers very fun to play. With Hillbilly, that's because I'm not very good with him yet. I haven't put in the time, but when it works, it's very satisfying. So I'm gonna put him up in A. I think Hillbilly's is very satisfying to pull off because just to zip around the map and then get it down, an insta down, that's a lot of fun. So I'm gonna put him there. Yeah, I feel comfortable that way. All right, next up we have Nurse. I hate to start off with a bunch of A tiers right in a row, but I'm gonna put Nurse in A tier. Being able to pull off a successful blink, that's pretty satisfying. It's definitely not super easy to do, so I think the more challenging ones are probably gonna be a little more on the satisfying end for me. So I feel comfortable putting her in A. So yeah, I think A is a good spot for her. All right, next up we have Myers, and Myers has the evil within, obviously. And I don't know, where do I want to put this one? He's fun. His base power though, I mean, it is fun. I'm struggling with this one because I don't want to rank him down. Like, I feel like putting him in C just because if the concept is how satisfying is it to use, I'm not like I'm kind of neutral about it, to be honest. You can make it more satisfying with add-ons, I think. So he's a lot of fun to play with, like Tombstone or Scratch Mirror, but just as his base, I don't know how satisfying I personally find it to play. I think if I was a bigger Myers fan, so if you're like a huge fan of the movies, I think you probably would feel more highly about this, and I completely understand that. For me, I'm gonna stick him in C for now. I might bump him up to B because I don't feel negatively about it, but I'm trying not to have too many high up right away as well. And I generally gravitate more towards Wraith than I do Myers personally. So I'm gonna put him in C for now. I might bump him up depending on where we get to in the end. All right, next up we have Hag with her traps. And to be honest, at the start, I really enjoyed using them, and they're satisfying for a few times. But then, I don't know, they eventually lost their luster for me. They're not like unsatisfying to use when you can teleport across the map and then hit a survivor instantly because they trigger one of your traps. That's fun, but I gravitate towards that less than even Myers. So I feel D tier wouldn't be necessarily totally unsatisfying. It's not, I don't know. With this one, it's going to be hard to, I just find hers least satisfying so far, if that makes sense. So I'm gonna, again, I might bump her up, but I'm gonna stick her in D tier to start. All right, next up we have Doctor, and he's got Static Blast and Shock Therapy, all part of his abilities. So, and some of these will have multiple special abilities, so we'll kind of take those all together. In Doctor, I feel it is pretty satisfying when you do a Static Blast and you get a bunch of survivors all screaming. And to be able to shut down a loop with his shock therapy is pretty satisfying. I'm not overwhelmed by it though. I wouldn't say it's one of my favorites. So I'm gonna put Doctor in C next to Myers. Yeah, maybe could bump him to B. I don't know. I'm on the fence on a lot of these, I'm realizing. I'm gonna stay there for now. All right, next up we have Huntress, and Huntress is one of my favorites to play. I'm gonna put her in A tier though. You might have expected me to put her in S tier, but I'm gonna put her in A tier. The reason why, it's really fun to hit hatchets, for sure, no doubt. But sometimes you're blessed by the entity giving you an extra wide hitbox. And I don't like that so much. That is less satisfying, to know that you actually missed and the hatchet still lands. I mean, I'll take it, but it's not as satisfying in that case. So because of that, I'm not gonna rank her S tier. I'm gonna rank her down a tier to A tier. But overall, she's one of my favorites to play. So she'd be on the upper end of A tier, but it just loses a little bit of that satisfaction or that fun, knowing sometimes you're just given a hatchet hit that you didn't earn. So there you go. But hitting long shots with her, oh, that is incredibly satisfying. I love it. Hey, if you're enjoying the video, can you hit that like button for me and let me know? And also a comment down below would really help out as well. Those things just send YouTube some positive signals to tell them to show this video to more people, and so we can grow our audience and our community. So I'd really appreciate that. Thank you. All right, Bubba. Now, you might expect me to put him up with Hillbilly, but I've said before, I don't really find Bubba's playstyle very satisfying. To be honest, no, I'm going to put him down here. I don't find his ability too satisfying at all to use. For some reason, I don't like the chainsaw insta-downs as much. I don't find that as interesting. The only reason why Hillbilly is ranked much higher is because of the chainsaw sprint. Adds an element of satisfaction to it, to me. With Bubba's, I'm not truly satisfied when I get it down. His ability just doesn't interest me in the same way. And it also has that caveat of you can go into tantrum. I don't know what it is. I always feel really bad when I go into tantrum. So his ability actually has a very deeply unsatisfying side to it. So yeah, I'm gonna put him down in D. Now I'm starting to rethink Hag, because I do like Hag's more than Bubba's. I think we'll put Hag up in C tier. Yeah, I feel good about that. Okay, all right, next up we have Freddy. Now Freddy's a bit of a mixed bag for me. Back in the day, I would put him immediately into the D tier. However, lately I've been having a lot of fun with him on stream because of his dream palettes. Now, I don't think I can technically count those because you need an add-on. I might factor it in, but I'm not going to weigh it fully on that because the dream palettes are a lot of fun to use and satisfying when you can pull them off. When a survivor throws one and you're able to down them, that's a lot of fun. I don't really find the rest of his kit, though, very satisfying. I don't know what it is about him. He's one of those that I feel like I should like his kit more than I do, if that makes any sense at all. Probably doesn't. But his dream snares and his dream projection just aren't, the novelty wears off pretty quickly for me. So I'm gonna put him, I'm gonna keep him in D tier. Dream palettes, I would say the dream palettes are A tier for sure, maybe even S tier. But if I'm just ranking him based on his base kit, it would be D tier. Oh, I don't know what I want to do. I'm gonna leave him in D tier for now. Well, I might change my mind on that, but for now, he'll be D tier. All right, next up is Pig, and she's obviously able to crouch. She's got the reverse bear traps, and she's got the ambush. Crouching is always fun. The reverse bear traps are, I don't know, to be honest, I don't really find those overly satisfying to use. Even when you get one to go off, it almost feels anticlimactic to me. I don't know. They're somewhat satisfying. But her ambush is pretty satisfying. I really like her ambush, and that is the main reason I gravitate towards Pig. When you can pull off a successful ambush, that's a lot of fun. And so I'm gonna put her in B tier myself. There's something about her playstyle with that ability that I find very satisfying. So yeah, we'll put her B tier for that. All right, next up we have Clown, and he's obviously got his tonic and his antidote. The tonic slows down survivors. The antidote speeds you up, but also would speed up the survivors if they go through that cloud. So I personally don't find these overly satisfying to use. To be honest, I'm not good with the antidote. So that's definitely, full admission, a personal problem, but it does detract from the satisfaction of being able to use it for me. But even just looking at the tonic, I don't find that overly fun to use. Not bad, not like, I mean, none of these are going to be like, oh, I hate using this special ability. None of them are going to be like that, but I just find it, of the whole roster, I find it one of the least satisfying to use. So I'm going to put him in D with Bubba and Freddy. Yeah, to be honest, I'm going to move Freddy up a tier because I actually find his abilities, especially with, if I was to factor in the dream palettes, that like I said, dream palettes are A or S tier. So I feel like I need to bump him up just a little bit because I don't, like I said, I don't hate any of these abilities. I just don't find Clowns to be the most engaging in the game. I do enjoy playing Clown, but it's not super satisfying. So yeah, we'll put him there. All right, Spirits. Spirits is going to be an A tier for me. So she's got her phase walking, which I find incredibly satisfying to use. I think it's a lot of fun to try to mind game survivors. Well, they can't see you, you can't see them, but you can hear and see their scratch marks. It's a good time. Not only is she very powerful and a strong character, but I think that her ability is a lot of fun to use and very satisfying. when you can pull it off. When you can phase back in and the survivor's right there and you can knock them, I love it. All right, next we come to Legion, and this one's interesting to me because there's a lot I love and find very satisfying about Legion's ability, and there's a lot that I just don't. So it kind of balances out a little bit. First off, the 5th hit down is absolutely S tier. When you can pull that off, oh, it feels so good. Very satisfying to do. I really like the kind of fast-paced, chaotic gameplay that their ability causes. You're just kind of running around the map going stabby, stabby. You've got a lot of information going on. You can see where all the survivors are. You're just causing chaos, and that's a lot of fun. Vaulting over windows or pallets, that's a ton of fun as well. It feels very good to do all that. But then at the same time, I also feel it's kind of weak because obviously you cause the deep wound, but unless you can get the 4 hits on the 4 different survivors all in one go, and you know the last one's going to down them. Once you get your first hits in, you're kind of like, okay, now what do I do? And your choice is kind of, do I end my power, or, you know, I'm talking about the times where you know you're not going to get that 5th hit. So I'm going to put Legion in B. There's a lot I love about it and find very satisfying, but then there's that flip side of kind of once you get those first hits down, unless you're going to get that 5th hit, it's kind of over at that point, and you're like, oh, okay, that was fun. Now just back to regular DBD. Cool. All right, next up is Plague, and you obviously probably can guess. I'm going to put Plague in S tier. Now, that's me because I'm a Plague main, and there's something about her playstyle that I just absolutely love. But using her Vile Purge to make survivors sick and eventually become exposed, or being able to use your Corrupt Purge effectively, it's a lot of fun. And it's not super easy. Like there's a bit of a trick to it. So there's skill you have to learn, and it's satisfying to use her ability, in my opinion. There's something about it that I really love. I love the ranged attack and kind of the dual abilities. It's just interesting to me. So I find her ability quite satisfying to use. And I'm a bit biased, I'm going to fully admit that, but I'm going to put her in S tier. She's going to be our first S tier, which, you know, you probably could have guessed. All right, so next up is Ghostface. And I know a lot of people really love playing Ghostface. For me, personally, I find his ability, I would say B tier satisfying. It's fun to, you know, be able to crouch, to be able to go into Night Shroud, stalk, lean out, you know, do all that fun stuff. That's a good time. And it's got a decent payoff when you're able to actually mark a survivor and expose them. But for whatever reason, that's not as satisfying to me as some of the others. So I feel comfortable having him in B tier. I like it, but I wouldn't say I love it, if that makes sense. So totally respect if you disagree with that. Absolutely. All right, next up we have Demo, and he's obviously got his portals that he's able to use to traverse the Upside Down. And then he's got a Shred as well. And these are, again, I would put him B tier fun. Being able to travel around the map is really cool, and it gives you a lot of good information as you're zipping through the Upside Down. Shred feels really good to pull off, largely because of the sound effects, but I just don't, it's not, again, the ones who are up in A tier, I feel more satisfied when I'm able to pull off their special abilities than a Demo Shred. It's kind of, I don't want to say basic, but it's not overwhelmingly special either. So I feel very comfortable having him in B tier. I do enjoy his abilities, but some of the others I find more satisfying, more fun to use. All right, next up we have Oni, and I'm going to put Oni in A tier. Similar to Hillbilly, it's a lot of fun to dash around the map and then be able to one-hit down survivors. And I don't know what it is, but something is very satisfying about just sucking up all those blood orbs all over the place. There's just, I don't know, it's kind of like vacuuming your room or something like that. It feels, there's just something cathartic about it, I guess. So I don't know, that's weird, but I enjoy it. So I feel comfortable putting him in A tier. It's not my favorite ability in the game, but it's a pretty good one. So, all right, next up is Deathslinger, and he's got the Redeemer. And this one, I'm going to put in A tier. It's very satisfying to me to be able to hit a survivor with your harpoon and pull them in, and to be able to pull off long shots with him is good. The sound effects of it, of just, you know, cranking it in, you hear the kind of increasing, like it just, yeah, it's very, there's a lot that goes into the package for me to make it satisfying, and I do gravitate towards Deathslinger. So yeah, I find the Redeemer a lot of fun to use. So A tier is good for me. All right, next up we have Pyramid Head, and you guys have heard me say before, I am not good with Pyramid Head, but I find his power extremely satisfying to pull off when I can pull it off well. There are a few of these that I feel become less satisfying if I'm not as good with it, but Pyramid Heads is one of those that, because I'm not good with it, it's almost that much more satisfying when I can actually pull it off. So it immediately counterbalances the fact that I'm not good with it. And he's got so much going on. Like, he's got the Cages of Atonement, which are always fun. He's got the Rites of Judgment, which gives you a lot of good information and obviously leads to the Cages of Atonement. The sound effects attacks tied with it all, and then being able to hit survivors with his ranged attack through walls. It's a whole package deal that is just incredibly satisfying when it comes together. And so I think Pyramid Head is definitely S tier for me in terms of fun and satisfying to use his special abilities. I think it's great. Our next up, we have Blight, and he's got his Blighted Corruption, which allows him to rush and slam and lethal rush. Similar with Pyramid Head. He's one of those that I'm not very good with, but that adds to the satisfaction when I'm able to pull off his special ability correctly. He's another S tier for me. It's a lot of fun to zip around the map, slam into things, and then when you can get that down, oh, so good. So very good. So I think his is incredibly satisfying to use and a lot of fun because of it. So he's S tier. All right, Twins. Twins, to be honest, I'm going to put Twins C tier. I don't love their special ability, being able to switch between them. It's kind of neat because it's so very different. Being able to jump on survivors with Victor is a lot of fun, but it almost feels slower to me to be switching between the two. I don't know. There's something about it that I just don't super love. It's okay, but it's not great. So C tier. All right. Now, the more I'm looking at C tier, the more I'm kind of going, I think Myers needs to go up. Myers needs to be in B tier. So he'd be like right there. Sorry, my OCD. I've got to keep him in order. All right. Next up is Trickster. Trickster he's going to be another C tier. I don't super love his abilities. To me, he's kind of a less good Huntress. So if I'm in the mood to play a ranged attacker, I'm going to play Huntress. Occasionally I get in a Trickster mood. And like I said, I don't hate any of these. His is less interesting to me, less satisfying. His main event just, I don't know. I've had it happen before where, your main event gets charged and whatever the proper terminology. I don't play enough Trickster even to know the proper terminology, but your main event's ready and you've just downed a survivor and there's no other survivors around, or they're far enough away that they can break line of sight really easily. And it just sometimes feels like the payoff isn't as good. And I don't like that. I don't know. It's just not as satisfying to use as some of the others, for sure. So yeah, he's C tier for me. All right, next up we have Nemesis, and he is one of my favorites to use in the game. He's going to be A tier for sure. He's not enough to be S tier, I don't think. But I think one of the reasons why he's my favorite is because I'm a big Resident Evil fan, and Resident Evil 3, the original, was one of my favorite games growing up. Yes, I played Resident Evil way too young, but so I think there's some bias there that leads me to pick him quite often. There's a lot that goes in. There's a lot of other stuff like atmospheric, like the chase music and the sound. Like you feel really, really powerful as him. That makes me really love the Nemesis overall. But that's not what we're ranking today. We're ranking obviously the special abilities and his tentacle strikes. His tentacle strikes are a lot of fun to use, and I like having to level up the mutation rate. There's some interest there for me. And the zombies are generally pretty useless, but they lead to some really fun and incredibly satisfying moments when you're able to chase a survivor into them and they get the down or they get the hit in, whatever. It's really fun. So, and I have a lot of fun interacting with the zombies. I've got names for them, Steve and Edna, and it's a lot of fun anytime I play Nemesis. And I like his special abilities quite a bit. They're not S tier fun for me, but they're definitely a solid A tier. I really enjoy it. I think it's really good. There's a lot of variety there. There's a lot of opportunity. And then I just love Nemesis. So there you go. A tier. All right, Pinhead. Pinhead was one that I almost immediately said was going to be S tier. But then I thought about it and I realized it's more the atmospheric elements that make me love playing Pinhead. Like the sound effects, the voice lines, all of that. None of which we're ranking right now. We're only ranking the special abilities. And to be honest, I find them okay. They're not super great. The chains are okay. They're kind of fun. The ability to teleport to the survivors trying to solve the box, definitely handy, but I wouldn't say overly fun. A lot of what I love about Pinhead is just the atmospheric elements around him make him a lot of fun. Like, he's not boring to play by any means. So I think I'm gonna put him in B tier. I enjoy his abilities, but they're okay. They're good. They're not great, in my opinion. There's a lot of other things that go into Pinhead that make him really, really enjoyable to play. His abilities just, they're decent. So yeah, B tier. I feel comfortable with B tier. All right, Artist. Artist is gonna be another A tier. The crows are really fun to use. I do feel she's a bit clunky, but I've been told that goes away when you put more time in with her, so I totally intend to do that. So taking the clunkiness out of there, the ability is a lot of fun to use. And when you can get information from it and attack value in the same ability, it's a lot. It's good. To be able to snipe survivors, to be able to set up the birds, and lead them in and just judge that angle correctly. Yeah, I miss a lot, but when you hit those, it's always deeply satisfying. It's kind of like a trap or bear trap. When you hear that go off, when you hear the birds hit, it's the same type of feeling for me. When you hear a trap or trap go off, you go, okay, I put a trap down in a good spot, and that feels good. When you hear a bird hit, it's like, oh yeah, I got the angle right. It just feels really good. So, and then if you can actually get the down with the birds, that's even better. So hers is a lot of fun to use. Very satisfying when you pull it off well. I like Artist's ability quite a bit. All right, next up is Onryo. And with hers, it's interesting to me because there's a lot going on with her, but a lot of it is passive. Now, there is strategy into building up the condemned on the survivors, for sure. So I don't want to discount that, but it's less, what do I want to say? Like tactile? That's a bad way to say it, but it's kind of more of a slow burn payoff, and you don't directly feel the impact of it like you would with a lot of the others. Being able to teleport is a lot of fun. There's a lot of atmospheric elements that go into it with her as well that make her, specifically her abilities, more fun to pull off. So unlike Pinhead, where he's got all the atmospheric elements, but most of them don't actually impact directly his abilities. Hers, a lot of those, just the feel of, you know, teleporting, coming out of the TV, manifesting, demanifesting, like that's a lot of fun to use. I do really enjoy that the manifesting, demanifesting doesn't slow you down, so you're able to do that in the middle of a chase without feeling like you're putting yourself at a disadvantage. She's a lot of fun to use, but I don't feel as strongly about her like I do about Artist or Nemesis or any of those on the A tier. So I'm gonna put her B tier. I do enjoy using her abilities, but not as much as a lot of those in A tier. So I'll put her a high B tier. Let's put it that way. All right, next up we have the Dredge, and the Dredge is a lot of fun to use. He's going to be another A tier. I'm going to put the Dredge in A tier because the locker teleporting is really cool. Being able to scare survivors is a lot of fun, and Nightfall is just really cool as well. If you're able to teleport to a locker and catch a survivor within it, that's incredibly satisfying and a lot of fun. So I gravitate. I'm a big fan of Dredge and his abilities. So yeah, I feel good about putting him in A. Putting it in A. I always do that. All right, next up we have Wesker, and Wesker, he, do I want to put him in A or S? Like, he is, I think the ability to catch survivors, grab them and just put them right on your shoulder, or grab them and smack them up against a wall, or even throw them. There's a lot of really good times to be had with Wesker, and being able to vault pallets and windows real fast. His ability is a lot of fun to use. He's one of the more fun characters on the roster because of his abilities. So I think he's an instant S tier for me. I say an instant S tier, but then I started this off by debating it, but the more I talk, the more I realize, like, no, yeah, he's definitely S tier. Yeah, for sure. All right, Knight. Okay, this one I'm going to admit is probably ranked down because of my lack of skill with his ability. I haven't put in enough time to fully learn his ability yet. But even when I've been able to pull it off well, I don't find it all that satisfying. Like, it's kind of fun to put out a guard and see them chasing a survivor around, or being able to break a pallet or a generator with a guard while you're in chase. So it's decent fun, but not, I don't feel it's too satisfying. So yeah, I'm gonna put him in C. I don't find his ability too much fun to use. But as I put more time in with him, I might put him up. So we'll see. If I redo this one a year from now, we'll see how I feel then. So yeah, for now, C tier. I don't like the differences in his guards, and they just cycle through that you can't like pick one. Like, their differences aren't so extreme that it really hinders you, but it just seems to me like it would make a little more sense if I could call one that I wanted to call in a given moment for that specific situation. Again, they're not too wildly different that it hurts you real badly, but it just would be nice to be able to say, oh, I need the jailer right now, and be able to call the jailer instead of being like, well, I just called the Carnifex, so now I've got to call the assassin first. You know, it just seems to me if I had more autonomy over his ability, I would maybe like it more and see more strategy there. So I don't know. It's not great. So I'm putting it C tier. But again, I might rank it up next time based on more time with him. So yeah, I don't know. All right, now we come to our newest character, which is the Skull Merchant. And there's a lot I do like about the Skull Merchant. There's a lot that I have issue with, but there's a lot I really do. There's a lot of positives that I feel towards the Skull Merchant. Her ability, I'm going to put it C tier. It's okay. I like it. It feels different from a lot of the others for me, even though there is some similar effects from it. I do like being able to place down the drones and having those areas of denial and whatnot. The tracking is a lot of fun. So I don't know. I'm actually kind of, okay, I'm talking myself into B. I enjoy her more. Maybe it's just because of, it feels a lot different, even though it's not doing a whole lot different from some of the others. But if you're able to properly track a survivor through walls, it is a lot of fun. I enjoy it. So it's a bit situational because obviously they had to have deactivated the drone and have the claw trap on them to be able to track them. But you're putting up enough drones all over the place and they're deactivating them that it comes up often enough that it's fun and it's satisfying to use. So I do enjoy the tracking element, and the areas of denial are kind of fun. And the effects around her abilities with the drones going up and whatnot and the visuals and stuff, that's a lot of fun. So I feel better about putting her in B tier. Yeah, I like her more than I like using the Knight's ability and these others on the C tier. So yeah, I think B tier is a good home for her. All right, let's do a final review and just, do I want to change anything? Do I feel differently now that I've gotten to the end? I don't think so. We've made some changes as we go. So yeah, I think I'm good. I'm good with these final rankings. This is how I feel about how satisfying or fun I find them to use. Now again, this is purely subjective, so you may find some of these abilities a lot more fun to use or satisfying to use than I did. So feel free, let me know down in the comments. Where do you feel differently? Where do you agree? Where do you disagree? I love chatting with you all down there. If you enjoyed the video, can you let me know by hitting that like button? And if you're not already subscribed, would you please consider doing so and helping us get to our goal of 15,000 subscribers by the end of the year? And as always, you are awesome, stay awesome, and we'll see you in the next episode. Cheers.